Benevolence to immortals. You can call me Whimsical William. Welcome to my channel. I want to talk about why video games are important right now, why we need them more than ever. Now, granted, video games have been around for almost 50 years and they've been important for the entire time, but for many different reasons. Like back in the 80s, video games were important because video games themselves has something to prove. We're an art form, we're a sense of entertainment that runs so much deeper than many other traditional forms of entertainment. And they proved that, but it was tough because the video game market crashed before it could completely blossom. Now, you had a lot of video games that were unlicensed, rushed, just terribly made, and Atari was just doing really terrible at the time. I think it was like 1983, 1984 when everything crashed. But Nintendo came and really saved the day. They had their brand, it's like the seal of approval. Like every Nintendo game had the seal of approval, the gold stamp on it. And when you saw that, you knew that your game was going to be halfway decent at least. Some games weren't that great, but you knew it wasn't going to be like a bootleg game or a fake game or something unlicensed. But they also put a chip inside of their system, and that made it a lot harder for game developers to just make whatever they wanted for the system. They had to go through Nintendo. So that really helped Americans and people in North America in general regain their trust in the video game industry and video games in general. So Nintendo was very important back then because of that. But video games are important because we were learning how to tell stories in a different way. That was cool. And then we, progressed to late 90s, early 2000s. We're getting into the PlayStation 2 era, the Xbox era, the end of Sega. Dreamcast sucks. Nintendo's GameCube. And we're moving beyond just telling a story. Now we're showing a story and having the players live through the character's story. It's really interesting. We shift from 2D to 3D. Games like Crash Bandicoot, Super Mario 64 or Mario 64. Those two games really paved the way. Zelda Ocarina of Time, to really show how much farther the player can get into the character and into the game just because of the additional dimension, the 3D. That was really cool. You fast forward some more, and games are really starting to take risks. They're starting to tell crazier stories. They're starting to get into the high definition era. And, that's cool too. But now, 2025, why are video games so important right now and more important than ever? Because graphics have never been as lifelike as they are. We are finding quicker, more efficient ways to store more information in a space, whether it be digital or physical content. You could put so much information on an Ultra Blu-ray disc. With that being said, gone are the days where you're limited to how much text you could have in a game. They got replaced by voice actors. Voice actors got replaced by subtle facial expressions and movements. Not necessarily replaced, but with the addition. Now you have great voice acting and you have the subtle facial expressions and facial features. We're just getting closer and closer to the real human experience. And we as humans, we've gone through pandemics, possibly another war. We're going through a lot as a species. And it's back to back to back. And we really need to be shown these human experiences in a way that we can really dig our heels into. Movies can make you feel so much, you can see so much, but you're never interacting with the movie. You're interacting with these games. When you're playing Grand Theft Auto, you're stealing cars, you're beating people up, you're doing a lot of legal stuff. You get to really experience it. And I think with the new Grand Theft Auto coming out, Grand Theft Auto 6, we're going to be immersed even deeper in that world, in these characters, and these actions. Now, with that power, with that platform, video games, the industry is worth more money now, I think, than it's ever been. With that power, money, and platform, there are more stories that need to be told, and not only told, but experienced. We have more characters of color, we have more characters of the LGBTQ community, we have more characters that are poor, more characters that are just angry, fed up. They're very human, and some of these characters aren't even human. They're elves or they're monsters or whatever the case may be. Spirits. You could tell so much with a non-humanoid character, and you could feel the closest connection to a human experience through those characters. I'm playing Metaphor right now, and there's a character in this game. No spoilers. I mean, the game's been around for a while, but it took me like a year to play it, and I'm a huge Persona fan, so an Atlas fan in general. But it just took me forever to get a PS5, and eventually I did get one. I'm very excited about that. Very blessed. But back to my topic, there's a character in this game, amazing voice acting. He's being persecuted. I wouldn't say persecuted, but he's being wrongly accused of a crime that he has no idea of. But also, he's being treated lesser because he's not humanoid, because he looks more like an animal. And there's other characters in the game that are also being treated less than because color of their skin, their eyes, their animal features. And I forget that none of these characters are human. They're going through such a human experience that I can relate to. Like, I've been treated poorly because of my look. I've been treated less than because of my skin color. I've felt that before. And it's crazy. We've been going through that for hundreds of years, and it still goes on with the same energy. Maybe more subtle. Sometimes not even as subtle. Like, sometimes it's exactly how it was in the 60s, which is horrible. But this game from Japan was able to really capture that discrimination, that prejudice, that racism, classism, in this JRPG. And you, all right, so say you're watching a movie and there's a character that's racist. You're like, oh, that sucks, man. That's awful. I've gone through something like that. You know, it sucks that, you know, other people are going through that still. In this game, you get to experience that, but you get to respond. So if a character is, you know, being prejudiced towards you, you could say, I don't appreciate that. You know, that's not cool. Or you could say, you know, you might not like me, but you like my money. You know, you're trying to shop, and the person's like, oh, whoa, we don't see you guys around very often. Thought you all died out. You know, people have a lot of smart things to say in this game, and you get to respond to them. You know, you have like different options of things to say. You can't, granted, respond, you know, the way you naturally respond, but the fact that you have choices of the ways to say your response really gets you involved in the story and puts you in the place of the character. And if you can relate, you feel like you're going through it. You know, it's like almost triggering, but it's uplifting and insightful. You have a person that's never experienced prejudice or really doesn't know anything about racism. They live in a bubble and classism. They've had, I wouldn't say an easy life, but they had a life free of those dichotomies. Now they're experiencing that. Now they're learning, like, why is my character being treated like this? Like, I'm helping people, I have money, you know, I'm doing the right thing, and my character is still being discriminated against. They might even get some vocabulary. They might not ever use those words because they've never gone through anything like that. Now that they're playing this game, they're experiencing it. And I'm not saying that every game has to be political or every game has to, you know, conjure up deep thoughts within your mind. Some games are just fun. Those games are important too. And those games have a place. You know, I'm playing Beautiful Joe. There's you know, enough story within that game to where I can enjoy the characters and the plot twists in here and that. But I just really enjoy running around, beating the crap out of, other characters and, trying to get to my goal. And it's people, a lot of people like to say video games aren't healthy. I think video games are absolutely healthy for your hand and eye coordination, for your focus, for your concentration. I think video games are absolutely good for the mind. It makes you think critically depending on the type of game it is. If you're playing a first person shooter, you got to think, if I hide here, I'm exposed from behind and on my right side. If I hide here, no one knows I'm here. Like, you can barely see me. So I could just camp out. People might think, I'm not a great player because I'm camping, but I have the advantage. You're strategizing. It's like chess. No one ever says, well, chess is a bad game. It's not a good game because you're strategizing. Video games are the same way. People just get upset that we spend so much time on them. And, fair enough, but there are so many other things to spend a lot of time on that people don't really, make a fuss about. All right, so I'm covering how video games can be good for the mind, hand and eye coordination. They tell great stories and they immerse you into the stories. They can teach you a lot of things too, and they're great for entertainment, but we've known that for decades. But they could teach us a lot of really cool things. Like when I was a kid, I was very young, a Gran Turismo came out like around 1997. That was my first driving experience. And granted, it's not the most detailed or realistic by today's standards. I learned so many cars, so many car parts, and I really learned how a vehicle is supposed to behave and what speed feels like and how dangerous it could be. Like I found myself crashing, into the walls and getting the grass, and I knew to respect the car's power when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So when I finally got a chance to practice driving, I knew I couldn't, force my way. I had to be very delicate with every input. If it wasn't for Gran Turismo, I wouldn't have known that. I would have just thought, whatever, just put my weight on the pedal, and I would have been very shocked at the result. But video games teach you so much more, like history. Now, granted, some older video games weren't accurate. These days, you can't get away with being inaccurate with your historical facts. You have to make sure that everything is well researched. Now, we can learn history from reading, watching videos, visiting different places. But like I said in my last point, playing a video game is interactive and you get to dig deeper within the knowledge you're learning, the characters that you're spending time with, and the world that you're immersed in. So, the thing about video games, and I'm going to bring up a funny point, I don't have a great memory, and I know some other homies that don't have great memories either. A lot of us remember the cheat codes for Grand Theft Auto. A lot of us remember the stage layouts for Donkey Kong Country. We remember all the cars from Gran Turismo. We remember a character's laugh. You got Titus from Final Fantasy X. We remember these things because we lived through it. We didn't just play the game, and we video games really teach you how to live in those moments. You don't just mindlessly play. I mean, some people mindlessly play, and if you get sleepy, you might not think about what you're doing. But that level of interaction causes you to mindfully do things, and it teaches you and it helps you practice mindfulness. And a lot of people don't talk about that, and a lot of people don't even realize that. But you're being present and in the moment when you're fighting that boss fight. That's why you get so angry when you lose. When you lose over and over and you're trying to change your strategy, and each time you change your strategy, you end up worse. You're like, wow, I thought like if I healed towards the end that I'd be able to last longer against this enemy's attacks, but I healed and I still got one shot. Or I'll use my strong attack first, and then the weak attacks, I'll be able to dwindle the health down. Whatever strategy you're trying to use, I'll dodge, then attack, and I'll be able to, stop the enemy from using their strong attack. You remember that. You're living through it, and you're in the moment, and you're focused. When we're watching movies, sometimes we'll watch a movie and we'll just be like, oh, this is good, and kind of drift off. and then come back and then drift off. In a video game, you get penalized for drifting off. You drift off while you're racing, you crash. You drift off in a fighting game, you lose. You get beat up. RPG, you might accidentally use a potion you don't need. You might miss a story beat that was really important. Whatever the case, we need these things right now. Like the world is like on fire, figuratively and literally. And we need to be mindful. We need to really take in the stories of other people. We need to live those stories and live those actions without living them. Because obviously, living like Grand Theft Auto is dangerous. And experiencing racism is horrible. And I wouldn't want anyone to experience that. But unfortunately, we do. But if you can experience it through the safety of a game, then you gain so much from it and you really don't lose much but time. So these are some of the reasons why I think video games are important right now. All the things that video games provide us with, that we've been provided with for decades, we need those experiences, that knowledge, and that interaction more than ever. Period. Like the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, very important back then, but the way that things are shaping up and things are changing, I believe that it's most important right now. We need all that information pouring in, and we need to mindfully take it all in. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's a little different from what I usually make, but I've been really feeling video games lately. I've been playing Metaphor, I've been playing Gran Turismo. I'm always playing Gran Turismo. And I've been playing Mafia. I'm excited for the new Mafia to come out. I just really wanted to talk about video games. So thanks so much for listening. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Helps the channel out a lot. If you like what you're hearing, on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're getting there slowly but surely. So thanks for the support, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.